Hello, welcome in. If you're here listening to this podcast, that means you're destined for something great, and we both know it to be true. So without further ado, welcome to the Dark Matter Podcast. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. Dev here, and I'm just buzzing with ideas, with energy. Today is a really exciting episode. I feel like this one, I feel like I say this with all of them, but I feel like this really is hitting home for the things that it's like, when you're trying to make sense of something, but you don't really know how to put it into words. And sometimes it's a couple days later, sometimes a couple months later, sometimes a couple years later, you finally know how to get as close to it as possible when you're articulating it with words. And I feel like this is kind of it. I feel like for, the longtime listeners to the podcast, they know that, my childhood, my upbringing, a lot of that stuff was unorthodox. And through that, some of the relationships I've had, some of the jobs, some of the friends I had, a lot of that stuff really led to a lot more challenges than one normally faces, to put it maybe in that way. And I think it really, when you reflect, and again, you guys know I'm big on reflecting. I'm big on really taking inventory of where you are, the things you've learned, and reevaluating if what you're working towards is still the thing that's most important to you. And there's so many things that go with that, of course. Actually wanting something that lights you up, not light someone else up. And I said this before in an earlier podcast, a lot of the times a lot of people are just chasing things that other people want. It's not actually a deep desire within your own self. And so we end up chasing something that we don't even know why we're working towards it. I was listening to this thing the other day, and the guy was saying, I'm going to teach you some information, but everybody's goal is different. One person might leave this room and might want to use this information to go make $1 billion. Someone else might use the same information, but their mindset and where they are and what makes them happy, they realize that all they really need is 6 figures a year to be happy. There are some people that want to go speak on stages and become a guru and do all those things. And then there's other people that would rather just do none of that and just figure out a different way. So it really does come down to you. Now, it's interesting because I heard this the other day, and I felt like it kind of ties into what I'm talking about here today, which the whole topic of today is just remembering that, yes, there are certain confines of the world, right? There are laws, there are rights and wrongs, there are procedures, there are a ton of things that are meant to keep order. That's the reality of the situation, to not have outliers, and if you do, know how to handle them correctly or efficiently so you can continue moving forward in a streamlined process. Now, I guess the thing for me was just looking back at my entire life. I feel like a lot of the things I was able to achieve came shortly after someone saying it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible to get into door to door and do really well. It wasn't possible for someone with no sales experience to create all of the success. It wasn't possible for someone to start a business without any degrees or things like that, right? It wasn't possible for a grade 9 student to be the captain of the varsity soccer team. It wasn't possible for our soccer team or a public high school to get sponsored by Nike. There was so many things that we were able to do, that I was able to do, that was outside of the normal confines, right? And it kind of just, again, this is the whole topic. It's, if you're thinking about a situation or a circumstance and you think about how where we are today, it is based on where we are in our minds, right? And a lot of people, and if this is you, this is a good reminder to just be conscious of what we wish for. But, a lot of people, when we pick a goal, say, for example, you want to get a red Ferrari. If I say, hey, person B over there, Joe, hey, Joe, are you interested in a red Ferrari? Yeah, I would love a red Ferrari, says Joe. I say, what would you do to get one in your hands today? Joe's mind naturally will go into all the reasons he can't have one, right? Yeah, well, I can't afford it. Well, what's the insurance going to be on it? Where am I going to park it? It just doesn't make sense. And like the resistance that we put in our way is oftentimes what makes it harder for us to achieve the things that we actually want, or even in an adverse way, right? If I was to say, okay, well, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, this car is over 100 grand to have, but I'll give it to you for $10. Your first piece in your mind always goes to, well, what's wrong with it? Because there's no way I'm going to get a car like that for that cheap, right? So we put these things in our minds to almost prevent us from getting the things that we want. And it's just really interesting because this is a big thing for a lot of us. And so I heard this thing the other day, and the guy was saying money isn't everything. It's a tool, it's helpful, it's useful, but it's not everything. And that's why your perception of everything really matters, because sure, money isn't everything to someone who has an abundance of it. But for someone who's just scraping by, going in the hole every single month in so much debt, money is everything. Money would literally change their entire life, their entire world. And so this really comes into this main talk today. It's weird calling it a talk. I guess it's just more of a rant. But the idea behind everything here that I'm saying is, who do you listen to? And I know that's a weird question to ask, but it's true. And the reality of why I'm asking this question, who do you listen to, is because so often we find ourselves listening to people who haven't actually done the things that we want to do and haven't been where we are in life currently. And I think when you ask yourself, who do I listen to, the person that you do listen to, or the people that you listen to, should check both of those boxes. They've been where I am now and they have the results that I want. If they don't have both of those boxes checked, then one, they won't really understand your current situation to understand what you're feeling, the challenges, the struggles, right? Your mentality in it. And then, of course, if they don't have results that you want, then they're just going to guide you to things that you don't actually want either. And this always hits so home for me because in that same example that I just shared, money isn't everything. If you were listening to that and then you start shifting your mindset to being like, yeah, money isn't everything. The challenges that come with thinking that money isn't everything, depending on your own financial situation, is realizing that this could prevent you from actually getting the things that you want in life. And as a whole, when you ask yourself the question of who do I listen to, think about all the times you've received advice and how it went, right? And this was a big thing. I know I have a lot of friends that really resonate with this, and this has been a concept that I've talked about for a long time in my own personal life and in my mentorships. I haven't really addressed it, and there's a lot more of this sort of information too for the podcast. But the idea is, like, when I share this stuff with the people I'm mentoring, right, I always say, where did you get that idea from? It's always from someone who maybe has your best interest at heart, but doesn't understand what you're actually going through, hasn't been there, and doesn't actually have the results that you want. And when we realize that 80 to 90% of the information that we receive is in those categories of not checking both of those boxes, we realize that we're in our situation because we're seeking advice from people who really should not be giving that information. And heck, that's why I kind of started with my own story, because if you are that type of person who had a rough upbringing, who wasn't always in an abundance of money, who never dreamed of coaching or helping people, who excelled in soccer but was like socially awkward, really dealt with a lot of anxiety. If you're not that person, then of course it's hard to really build that relationship with me. But if you are that person, now you see how I have a podcast that's in 22 countries. I've generated over 7 figures in the online space. I now have an incredible business that we call the complete solution for online coaches, that is a one-stop shop for anyone that is growing their online business. And I'm doing it with my partner, which is incredible. My girlfriend is my business partner, and we're doing this together. So to go from that to this, if you want that lifestyle, if you have been where I have been and you want this sort of, life for yourself, then of course this is going to be the information that you want to take in. But if that's a different result for you, and maybe the where you want to go is different, then of course the best thing that you can do is find the people that you really resonate with. And it's got to be 1 or 2 people. Because when I talk to the people that I mentor and I ask them, when they make really interesting financial decisions, right? Or they end up spending money on things that they shouldn't, or putting money in, some investment things that they may not have needed to yet. And I say, what made you do that? What made you bring up that idea of doing this? They always say, oh, well, this is what my friend did, or this is what my mom or dad did, or this is what my brother or sister did. It's like these people who go to their friends and their family for advice on how to move their life forward. And I get that. I love it. But if your friends and family don't have what you are trying to achieve, then their information is actually doing you a disservice. It's being more detrimental to your success than what you can imagine. And when I hear it from my friends who I talk to, and they say, I'm thinking about going to maybe get this job, for example. It's like, okay, well, why do you want to get this job? It's like, well, my parents think it's the best thing for me. It's like, okay, well, would you be happy living the life that your parents currently have? It's like, oh God, no. It's like, God, no. But here you are taking their advice. Here you are not actually setting yourself up for success by trying to find someone who has the results that you want, who's been where you are, who can help you. You're going to just take advice like that. And I think this is the biggest reason and challenge that a lot of society faces. A lot of society, a lot of today's day and age, there's so much information out there. You can jump on YouTube and there's 100,000 videos brand new today. There's more podcasts than there ever have been. There's more coaches, gurus. There's so many people out there that, claim at least that they live a life like this. And I think it's when you do your research and your due diligence, you'll find the people that really resonate with you. And I think aside from the accolades and the things that they've achieved, it's also the energetics of it all. And one of my favorite lines, I'm going to wrap this up with this. One of my favorite lines is, the facts don't matter when your attitude is right. And I know that's an interesting way to end this podcast episode, but this, going back to the very beginning, was a concept that I didn't fully understand until it got put into words years later. From getting in trouble at school but not facing the severe punishments that a lot of other people face when doing the same thing. From getting in trouble with maybe even the law and not facing some of the severe punishments that other people have faced even in similar situations or doing similar things. You look across the board, and in my own personal life, there have been things that I shouldn't have had. There have been things that I shouldn't have made it out of the way that I did. But I was able to because my attitude was right. And if there's one thing that you take away from today's generational rant, and I know there was a ton of different things, and I think the reality of the situation is all you should be looking for is that one golden nugget. Whether it's who do you listen to, or whether it's realizing that your attitude plays more of a role in your success than your schooling, your certificates, your intentions. Your attitude is senior. Your attitude is the most important thing, because your attitude, it attracts or detracts people that you don't even need to speak on. I'm sure we can all relate to going out to a coffee shop and there's someone that just feels off and you just immediately close up. You don't want to make eye contact, right? Like you almost think they're up to no good, right? Someone comes into the store and they're throwing things around and you're a little upset. They have this energy, that attitude about them that makes you feel like, oh, I don't want to be around that person. No way. And just like your energy does that for people in the negative, it also does that in the positive. And when your attitude is right, when you're happy and you're thriving, and I know it's hard to be happy sometimes, like categorically happy when there's so many other things going on, but if you can really put yourself in the future, put yourself in a situation where you realize that, one, you reflect often, two, you know the thing that you're working towards is the thing that you genuinely want, and three, you know that your attitude is what's going to help separate you from getting there and help put the right pieces in place for you, you just realize that it's a little easier than you think when you're more focused on one direction than changing directions every single time someone else has something to say. And I think we all get it. If you go to 5 people and you say, hey, I'm in a situation, what do you think I should do? Sometimes they'll have the same answers. Sometimes they'll have completely different answers. And I think it's realizing that depending on who you ask, you're going to get the results of the people that you take advice from. Go all in with it and really just focus on who you really want to take that information from. Because if you're not, and you're misguided, or you watch a 30-second TikTok and you're like, this is my new information, this is what I'm going to do, it's only a matter of time before you find something that doesn't add up, and then you're back to square one. If anything, it's more detrimental to your success not having someone that you can really look up to and really want to be like, because if not, we're just on our boat in the middle of the water, paddling towards whatever is easiest and closest to us, when sometimes the things that we actually want may not be the first thing that comes to us. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, so much information. It's just, I'm overloaded right now. Honestly, I could continue on, but I'm going to save this for the next couple of episodes. Appreciate everyone who has been listening, as always, sharing the show and all that jazz. I've got all the links to all the things you're going to need if you want to level up your business, or, reach out and connect on the socials. All that stuff will be down below. Appreciate you as always. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, share, subscribe to it all. I appreciate it. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.